Can you really fall in love with a video game character? What if there are two of them, and one is doomed to die? This is the painful question haunting Kenya, our protagonist. His only goal now is to change the tragic fate awaiting the heroines he loves. After searching desperately, he discovers there's only one way to save them. He must win an unwinnable battle, a fight the game was designed to make him lose. But he refuses to accept defeat, not after these two girls saved him when he was at his lowest, ready to erase himself from existence. They reached out and gave him a reason to keep going. Now it's his turn to fight for their survival. To break their cursed destiny, Kenya enters Season 6 of Night of Giants, a worldwide sensation where players pilot massive mechs called KOGs in high-stakes combat. When Kenya emerges victorious, even the game's creator and commentators are stunned. They rave about his unbelievable final match. His speed was impossible to track, his moves defied logic, and viewers around the globe were left in awe. Nobody could believe what they just witnessed. Everyone was buzzing with the same question: how did Kenya pull off such an incredible victory? During the post-win interview, instead of celebrating, Kenya stunned the crowd by turning to the game's creator and demanding, "Is there any way to save both Kaguya and Rina?" The creator froze. This wasn't just unexpected. It was impossible. Flustered, she glanced at the commentator, silently begging for help. Kenya pressed harder, pleading for even the smallest clue. A simple yes or no would have been enough. But the creator cut the interview short, mumbling something about the team matches starting soon. Kenya lunged forward, desperate to stop her, to squeeze out just one useful hint, anything that could save Reina and Kaguya. But it was no use. Defeated, he slumped over his desk, staring at the figurines of the two girls who meant more to him than just game characters. They had saved him when he was ready to give up on everything. Now he'd do whatever it took to return the favor, no matter the cost. Kenya swore to himself, this time, he wouldn't abandon them. His mind flashed back to middle school, when his parents split up in the most cliché way possible. Both had fallen for other people. No matter how hard he begged or reasoned with them, neither would budge. In the end, they divorced and went their separate ways. Without him, they left him with just enough money to survive in a tiny apartment where he still lives alone. Things only got worse in high school. When he tried to defend a classmate from bullies, his good intentions backfired. He became their new target. The teachers saw what was happening but did nothing, too afraid or indifferent to step in. And because the adults stayed silent, so did everyone else. Kenya might have fought back if even one person had stood with him. But with no allies, he just took the abuse, hoping they'd eventually get tired of him. Instead, his quiet resistance seemed to make them hate him even more. Everything came to a head when the bullies surrounded Kenya and attacked him. The physical pain was unbearable, but the crushing loneliness hurt even more. With no family to turn to and no friends to lean on, he saw no point in going on. That night, as he stood at his window ready to end it all, something miraculous happened. Reina and Kaguya's voices called out to him. For the first time in his lonely existence, someone actually noticed him. These two girls became his salvation. Kaguya, with her icy exterior hiding unexpected warmth, and Rina, whose cool demeanor melted away when they were together, showed him kindness he'd never known. Naturally, his heart opened to both of them. What started as a simple match-fighting game became his entire world after a story update pulled him in deeper. The more immersed he became in their digital world, the further he retreated from reality, skipping school, abandoning his old life, until the game became his only reality. Being with the girls made Kenya happier than anything else. Just hearing them say his name filled his heart with joy. Their simple attention made him feel like his life was worth living again. But just when he finally found happiness, disaster struck. Both heroines died right in front of him. As they were dying, they both told Kenya they loved him. The worst part? The game forced him to pick which one to save, knowing the other would die. No matter what Kenya did, he couldn't save them both. He played the game over and over, trying every possible choice, every different path, but the result was always the same. One girl lived, the other died. Kenya didn't want to choose between them. He wanted both Kaguya and Reina to live. Remembering how the game creator refused to help him, Kenya sadly looked through his phone at all the different story paths he'd tried. He started to believe maybe it was truly impossible to save them. But then he noticed something. There might be an important moment early in the game that he always ignored because it seemed unimportant. This was the losing event, a battle that's impossible to win. Every player loses this fight, no matter how good they are. Could this hopeless battle actually be the secret to saving both girls? This special battle makes you fight against 100 different robots using just one ordinary machine. What makes it so unfair is that your robot can't get fixed if it gets damaged, while you have to face wave after wave of enemy machines. The game designers made sure nobody could ever win this fight. It's not just hard, it's completely impossible. Every single player who's ever tried has failed this challenge. Kenya starts feeling hopeless again, thinking he'll never save the girls he loves. But then, this impossible battle gives him a crazy idea. What if this was the key all along? A new spark of hope lights up inside him, pushing him to try one more time. He tells himself that even the smallest chance to save both Kaguya and Rina is worth fighting for, no matter how many times he has to try. Full of fresh determination, Kenya jumps back into the game and heads straight for the battle event. I'll never know unless I try, he tells himself. I have to test every possibility. But reality hits hard. His robot gets destroyed immediately, over and over again. After countless failures, Kenya finally snaps. He throws his headset on the bed in frustration and collapses onto his back. It's no use, he groans. This is completely impossible. Nobody can win this. Lying on his bed staring at the ceiling, Kenya's mind drifts back to his parents abandoning him. That deep loneliness and pain he felt ever since. A dark thought creeps in. If he quits now, everything will stay the same. His past won't change. The girls will still be gone. With sudden determination, he grabs his headset. This is my only shot, he mutters to himself. If he wants to save them, he'll need to push himself harder than ever before. What follows is the most intense training regimen imaginable. Kenya analyzes every possible way to improve his skills. He studies enemy movements until he can predict their attacks blindfolded. He memorizes battle patterns down to the millisecond. Every waking moment is dedicated to becoming the perfect pilot, all for the chance to save Kaguya and Rina. 2 grueling months pass. The progress is undeniable. Where he once couldn't last a minute, he now battles through 90 of the 100 enemy robots. But the final wave is different. The patterns shift unpredictably. There's no time to think, only react. This is where real skill meets pure instinct. Kenya was finally turning the tide of battle, taking down enemy after enemy. After destroying 5 of the remaining 10 machines, a moment of doubt crept in. Could he really beat them all? But he shook it off immediately. I have to win, he told himself through gritted teeth. Everything depends on this. Just as he was about to attack the remaining robots, they struck first with a devastating cannon blast that sent his mech crashing through a building. The impact was massive, but somehow his machine was still operational, mostly. When he struggled back to his feet, he saw the left arm was completely destroyed, but the rest could still fight. Gathering his last strength, Kenya launched a furious close-range assault, obliterating 4 more enemies in one explosive charge. With only the final robot remaining, he executed a daring maneuver, slipping underneath it and delivering one perfect final strike. Against all odds, he'd done the impossible. But the victory came at a terrible cost. 2 months of non-stop training and fighting without rest had drained him completely. As the adrenaline faded, his body finally gave out. His heart raced dangerously fast while his limbs felt like lead weights. He couldn't even raise his arms or speak, his body completely spent from the monumental effort. Yet through the exhaustion, one thought remained: he'd conquered the unconquerable. His eyelids grew heavy until darkness took him. When his eyes fluttered open, he found himself in a bright white space. A glowing message floated before him: "Congratulations on your victory." This shockingly realistic display made him realize the game wasn't over yet. Another prompt appeared, its words challenging him: "Do you still have the courage to change this world?" Below it gleamed 2 choices: yes and no. A determined smile spread across Kenya's face. "I'll change it as many times as needed," he declared, "just to live happily with Kaguya and Rina." Without hesitation, he selected yes. The moment his finger touched the option, the floor beneath him vanished. A swirling black void opened up, swallowing him whole. As he tumbled through the darkness, one final message flashed: "Good luck." Then, snap, the portal sealed shut above him. Kenya landed with a thud in his own bedroom. For several stunned seconds, he just sat there. "That was incredible game animation," he muttered, rubbing his sore back. The experience felt so real, he actually believed he was falling. The game's realism kept surprising him at every turn. Kenya's hands flew to his head. His VR headset was gone. He frowned, trying to remember if he'd taken it off after the final battle. A quick search around his desk and room turned up nothing. His controllers had vanished too. "This can't be happening," he muttered, checking under furniture and in drawers. Those things cost a fortune. In his frantic searching, he bumped the table hard. A crisp white envelope fluttered to the floor. When he tore it open, his eyes nearly popped out. It was an acceptance letter from the prestigious Asgard Knight Academy. According to the letter, he'd been admitted as a first-year student. Kenya's mind reeled. None of this made sense. Then strange mechanical sounds started coming from outside. He rushed to the window and threw it open, only to see actual cog units flying through the sky, just like in the game. His first thought, I must be dreaming. He pinched his arm hard enough to leave a mark. The pain was real. The machines were real. This wasn't a dream at all. Somehow, impossibly, he'd been transported into the world of Knights of Giants. For a boy who'd lost everything, it felt like the universe was finally giving him a chance at happiness. Kenya could hardly believe it. He was actually standing in the world he'd idolized for so long. But excitement quickly turned to panic as he realized he had no clue what to do next. His hands trembled as he opened the wardrobe, revealing the crisp black and gold Knight Academy uniform he'd only ever seen in the game. At first he thought it might be some elaborate cosplay costume, but the fabric felt too real, too substantial in his hands. Just as he was examining it, a strange device like a futuristic smartphone buzzed to life with an alarm. The screen flashed. Entrance ceremony, today 9 a.m. Kenya's mind raced with questions, but he pushed them aside. Figure it out later, he told himself. Right now, don't be late. He dressed in record time and bolted from the dormitory, sprinting through unfamiliar streets toward the academy. As he ran, the surroundings felt oddly familiar yet different. The academy building came into view. It looked surprisingly similar to schools in his old world, except for the towering mechanical gates. Following the growing crowd of uniformed students and checking the map on his device, his pulse quickened with each step closer. When he finally reached the grand gates, Kenya stopped dead in his tracks. There it was, the magnificent academy building he'd seen countless times on his screen. Now he was really here, about to walk through those doors as an actual student. As Kenya walked through the grand entrance, a sleek black luxury car pulled up to the gates. A uniformed attendant quickly jumped out and opened the rear door with perfect timing. Out stepped a young man who carried himself with such grace that Kenya immediately recognized him. This was Prince Asgard, second son of the Empire's royal family. Everything about the prince matched what Kenya remembered from the game. His noble bearing, the way everyone treated him with utmost respect. The prince was famous for his brilliant combat skills and honorable personality, earning admiration even from the Empire's elite knights. Yet despite all his talents, Kenya recalled one curious detail. The prince had never piloted a KOG. This thought made Kenya dismiss the prince's importance in his mind. Lost in these thoughts, Kenya failed to notice the proper etiquette around royalty. He stood staring openly instead of bowing like everyone else. One of the prince's guards immediately spotted this disrespect. "You there," the guard barked, storming over before Kenya could react. A sharp slap cracked across Kenya's face. "Know your place, second-class citizen," the guard roared. "How dare you gaze upon His Highness with such insolence?" The guard's face twisted in anger at Kenya's apparent lack of manners. Kenya opens his mouth to introduce himself, but the guard cuts him off sharply. "I don't care about your name," the guard snaps, roughly grabbing Kenya's arm. He jabs a finger at the two bands around Kenya's wrist. "Do you even know what these mean?" When Kenya stays silent, the guard's face darkens. "These marks you for what you are, a second-class imperial citizen." The guard forces Kenya to look around at the crowd of students all bowing deeply to the prince. In this moment, the reality hits Kenya like a physical blow. He's truly in another world now, with its strict hierarchies of royals, knights, and flying war machines. "You should be grateful just to breathe the same air as royalty," the guard sneers. "Second-class citizens only exist by the royal family's mercy, yet you dare show such disrespect." As the confrontation escalates, a chilling realization dawns on Kenya. He remembers this exact scenario from the game, an early scene designed to show players this world's brutal nature, where the victim gets beaten to death by an angry mob. Memories of his own school bullying come flooding back, the helplessness, the pain. His body locks up completely, muscles refusing to obey no matter how hard he tries to move. The trauma of his past and present danger paralyze him completely. The guard's face twisted in anger as Kenya remained standing. "You still refuse to show respect?" he growled. "Then I'll teach you the price of disrespecting royalty." He raised his hand, ready to deliver another brutal punishment. Prince Asgard stepped forward with a raised hand. "Enough," he said calmly. This is a place of learning, not violence. A connor's blood isn't worth staining our academy grounds. But the guard shook his head. Your Highness is too merciful, he insisted. Drawing his sword with a metallic hiss, he took a combat stance. This wretch comes from a conquered people. He should grovel in gratitude that we allow his kind to live. The blade glinted dangerously as he prepared to strike. Please wait, Kenya begged, but the guard wasn't listening. Just as the sword began its deadly arc, a blur of motion interrupted. Kaguya exploded into the scene with a flying kick that knocked Kenya clear of danger. I humbly apologize for this fool's behavior, she shouted, landing gracefully between Kenya and the guard. Keeping her head respectfully bowed, she continued, Please show mercy just this once. I promise to personally beat proper manners into this idiot. As Kenya tried to protest, Kaguya slammed his face into the dirt. Shut up and apologize, she hissed through clenched teeth, maintaining her polite smile for the royals while secretly protecting Kenya from worse harm. Both of them dropped to their knees, heads bowed low before the prince. We sincerely apologize for his actions, Kaguya said formally. The prince waved his hand dismissively. I'll forgive you this time, he said with a tired sigh. I prefer not to start my day with violence. The guard reluctantly put away his sword, but not without adding, you should thank his highness for his mercy. Others wouldn't be so kind. As they stood up, Kaguya muttered under her breath, What a way to ruin my morning. She then whirled on Kenya, her voice sharp. Are you stupid or what? When you see royalty you bow. They could have your head for less than what you just did. Kenya finally looked up at the girl scolding him, and his breath caught. It was Kaguya, the very girl he'd fought so hard to save. Seeing her alive and standing before him, all his emotions came rushing out in uncontrollable tears. Are you even listening to me? Kaguya snapped, hands on her hips. Before she could continue, Kenya suddenly pulled her into a tight hug. Why hey! Kaguya's face turned bright red as she struggled. With an angry shout, she shoved him away and smacked him on the head. Idiot! Pervert! She yelled, her embarrassment turning to fury. First you almost get executed, now you are doing this.